Well, good morning, everyone. This is Carolyn, and it is 10 a.m. Eastern, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Katie, can you just tell me if you can see my screen? I have the HDI. Okay, thank you.
Yes,
because I don't have my little green box around it for some reason. That's a little troubling to me. So in any event, good morning. My name is Carolyn Wheeler, and on behalf of the Human Development Institute and the Supported Employment Training Project in particular, of which Katie and Chelsea and I are a part, we'd like to welcome you to this webinar about the impact of work on SSI, particularly with a focus on students with disabilities who are still in high school. And so as you're joining the Zoom room, if you would continue to type in what you do and where you're from, and also would like to ask if you do have your video on, if you would turn it off, because that will help the interpreters to be seen more easily. So to get started, I'm going to share a brief video about what the Human Development Institute is and a few of our resources as a way to get started this morning.
Since 1969, the Human Development Institute at the University of Kentucky has worked to improve the lives of people with disabilities.
HDI is Kentucky's University Center on Disability.
HDI is also part of a nationwide network of University Centers for Excellence established by federal legislation to provide services for people with disabilities and their families.
We are committed to people with disabilities and their lived experience being at the center of all of our work.
We value the unique role and perspective of families and networks of support in our work.
We work for full access to education, work, health, housing, community, recreation, and relationships for all people with disabilities.
We strive for diversity and inclusion in all efforts and value all identities that shape the experience of people with disabilities.
We demonstrate respect for all individuals.
We promote self-determination.
We foster creativity, innovation, and collaboration.
We support individual and organizational learning.
We engage in open and responsive communication.
We support the full participation and contribution of all people with disabilities in all aspects of society.
To learn more about the Human Development Institute, visit hdi.uky.edu.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing and invite my colleague, Katie Wolf-Whaley, who's going to be sharing now some information about Employment First here in Kentucky.
Good morning. It's exciting to see so many people here. Thanks for coming this morning. I wanted to start this morning with a little bit about Employment First and just set kind of a basis of why everything Carolyn is to talk about next is so important. So Kentucky is what we call an Employment First state. And I'm going to get into just what that means in a second. But Employment First is this idea that people who desire to become employed, if folks with disabilities who are receiving publicly funded supports, if somebody wants to go to work, that employment should be that first and priority option. That if people want to be employed, to be a part of their workforce, then we don't want our day system to just have them be somewhere else where people with disabilities go, which has traditionally been where a lot of our services have existed in Kentucky and across the country. And this idea, it started as a philosophy. Kentucky was one of the early states back in the early 80s to gain supported employment as a service, this service for people who have the most significant impact of disability. We were an early state to realize, recognize, and prioritize that people with significant impact of disability can go to work and be successfully employed in the community. And that we want to prioritize that and make sure that they are supported through our VR systems and across our Commonwealth. And then it became a movement. This People want out of day programs and sitting on the couch and doing other things. And when folks want a job, they want access to the services and supports that are out there to be able to do so successfully. And it has across the country become a policy direction. So we've seen executive orders and legislation all across the country around employment first and setting employment as that priority service option. In fact, it was signed into law here in Kentucky just in March of this year. It was initially signed via executive order in May of 2018 by former Governor Bevin. It was re-signed as executive order in June of 2020 by Governor Beshear, and then was introduced as Senate Bill 104 this past session and signed into law. And so it clearly states the competitive integrated employment in the community shall be considered the first and primary option for persons with disabilities of working age who desire to become employed. So it sets employment as that priority service goal for people in our disability systems. And while it wasn't signed into executive order here until 2018 and was 2022 before it became law, you saw this same priority in this education realm back in 2014 when the Work Innovation Opportunity Act was passed. That competitive integrated employment, defined very similar to what we have in our state statute, became that expected outcome, right? That Congress makes clear that youth with significant disabilities must be given every opportunity to receive the services necessary to ensure the maximum potential to achieve competitive integrated employment. And so we have these priorities for students, for adults, and now we need it to really shift what happens in people's lives, right? We know that regulation and policy can encourage all of this collaboration as it has through WIOA, as it has through our Employment First law and creating the council and having agencies work closer together. And now we need it to happen in real life so that students see that access to employment supports and see having a real job, a good job, something they want to do is a viable option for them, and that their families understand that this is possible. It's not just that one kid from their special ed class that happened to get a job, but this is what should happen for all of our students. And just a reminder, I'm guessing everyone here understands the definition of competitive integrated employment. This is how it is stated in the Employment First law. And so we're talking about real jobs for a fair wage, right? Not a separate business that was created specifically for people with disabilities to be employed, but that meets these tenets of competitive integrated employment. Because everybody benefits, right? Everyone across our communities benefit. Employers, our business community, families, people with disabilities, first and foremost, benefit from people entering the workforce and having a career that they want to go to and that they are earning income. And we know that Employment First is a wide issue. It's a disability issue, of course, and that's why we're here today, to understand more about the disability side and wages and Social Security and how that works. But we also know that it's a workforce development issue. The reality is our employment numbers are low, right? Kentucky ranks 45th in the nation in this gap of people with disabilities who are working and those without a disability who are working. This covers all people with disabilities who are living in the community, not those who are institutionalized, but it is cross disability. This comes from our NCI data, which is specific to Kentucky's intellectual developmental disability system. It is showing that in 2021, just 8% of people have a job in the community. So those who are served through our state intellectual developmental disability system, of which there are a lot of people and a lot of money, only 8% of people are working. And the number wasn't much higher pre-COVID either. But it also shows that 58% of people who, when surveyed, will say they want to go to work, they want a job. Of those folks who say they want to go to work, only 15% of them actually have it in their service plan. So in the real world, we know, right, if it's not even in the service plan, there's very little chance of it happening. Because sometimes when it's in the service plan, things don't always happen and goals aren't reached the way we want them to. And so there's a huge gap, not just in our numbers of employment, but even of those who want to go to work and those who are actually seeking a job, which is a lot of what we're talking about the rest of today. Is how do we break down those barriers that keep people who may otherwise want to go to work from actually entering the workforce? And we know it's a workforce development issue. This comes from the Kentucky Chamber Foundation. Long before COVID, we have been in a workforce crisis. So if we know our businesses across our Commonwealth need employees, and we know there are people who want to go to work that aren't, then these issues go well together. And so right now on this road to employment first, we are very much in the middle here, right? Employment has been a service option for adults for a long time, as has been something to be looked at for students coming out of high school. We want it to be the primary, that first option. And there's a lot of stuff in the middle here to make that a reality. I think a big part of what we're talking about today falls in that middle of that advocacy and education. Families need to understand the impact of wages on benefits and that the sky isn't necessarily going to fall. Adults need to understand that. And there's a lot of myths out there. And so I'm really excited to see so many people here to figure that out. And that cross-agency collaboration really includes school systems and vocational rehabilitation and adult service systems. That idea of transition, we talk a lot about this world of transition, but if the school folks and the adult service folks don't understand each other and work well together, the reality is too many students get left out because the families' heads are kind of spinning and they're just not sure where to go and what to do. So those early connections to vocational rehabilitation while students are still in school, and families have access to that information of applying for VR services and seeing employment as an outcome of what can come next. Because we know for all of our students, right, regardless of the impact of disability, it's not a question of whether a person can work. It's a question of where they're going to work, where they're going to be successful, what kind of a job is going to be the best job for them. We know that everybody has something to offer that's worthy of pay. Right? As those transition coordinators, the employment specialists, the teachers in the school system, you know that every student has something about them that's going to be of value to an employer. It's figuring out where that can work and making sure that our systems are working and families and students understand that this is a viable and a good option of what can come next after school life. I am always happy to talk about how that can work, how the systems work together, how to make them work together. So you have my email address and then the Employment First Kentucky website. So I appreciate you all being here, and I'm going to be quiet so you can hear what you really came to hear. So thank you, Carolyn, for sharing all this good information today.
Well, thanks so much, Katie. And I just want to check to make sure that my mic is working okay. So
I can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you, Katie. So again, welcome everyone. And this is Carolyn Wheeler. And so I'm going to start sharing information about the topic at hand and specifically about the impact of work on SSI benefits. So to start, I always have to think about where to start because there's so many great resources. So I'm going to start with the Google Drive that was in the announcement for this webinar, and I will send you all the link again after the training. I can also copy and paste it into the chat box. Well, actually, I need to do that a little bit differently so that you can open it. So I want you to know that all of the handouts that I'm going to share during this presentation are available in this Google Drive. So not to worry, you will have copies of them. And I'm going to ask Katie to send me her Employment First presentation, and I will also upload that to the Google Drive so that you will have that as well. So to get started, actually, I'm going to start with some of the best resources about this topic, which are a website that the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation has invested in, which is called Kentucky Disability Benefits 101. Now, the website links are not in the Google Drive, so you can click on them now from the chat box, and then you can bookmark them to come back and look at them later. So this website really has any and everything you would want to know about the impact of work on benefits, on health insurance, but it would require you to spend some time mining its treasure, so to speak. So I'm going to first start with just sharing this 2-minute video, which is an overview about it.
Welcome to Kentucky Disability Benefits 101, ky.db101.org. DB101's articles and tools can help you make informed choices about benefits and work. DB101 articles help you explore how work can improve your life. They give strategies to help you find work, manage your benefits when you work, and manage the money you earn. A good place to start is the Getting Past the Myths article, which shows why the top 7 myths related to work and benefits are just myths. It uses facts to show how work is possible and how you can work and still get the supports you need. Other articles introduce programs like Medicaid, Medicare, Supplemental Security Income, SSI, and Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, explaining program rules, answering frequently asked questions, and helping you figure out your next steps. DB101 Benefits Planning Estimators let you put in numbers from your own situation and add a work plan. DB101 then does the math and shows how work would help you. With a free account, you can save your favorite pages and tools and save your estimator sessions. You can see them anytime by going to My DB101. Anywhere on DB101, you can use the Get Expert Help directory on the right-hand side of the page to find experts who can help you. Explore everything Kentucky DB101 offers and see how it can help you at ky.db101.org.
So I'd like to invite you using your phone, or if you minimize the Zoom window, if you're using a computer and you don't have a separate screen, to actually go to this website. I want to really encourage you to do so because you will learn how to use it if you do it versus just watching me click through items. So again, you can use your phone, you could use a tablet, because the website itself is very friendly on mobile devices. Obviously, the screen's quite a bit smaller, but you can also, as I said, just minimize your Zoom window and then you could open up that link. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click on supplemental security income, as that is the primary topic of discussion this morning. And so on the page, it tells you about what the benefit is. And so it states, if you have a disability, are blind, or are over age 65, and you also have low income and limited resources, you may qualify for supplemental security income, a program run by the Social Security Administration. If you qualify for SSI, you get monthly payments to help you pay for your basic needs. A person who is single can get up to $841 per month in benefits. You also get Medicaid health coverage automatically without having to file a separate application. If you get SSI benefits and start working, you'll probably end up better off financially. SSI's rules are designed to help you find work and make sure that your total income will be higher after you get a job. And then you could click on another hyperlink about rules for children under 18. Now, this part in the green box is very, very, very important. And this is where often the misconceptions come about. Social Security has 2 disability benefits with very similar names. Supplemental Security Income, SSI, gives monthly payments to people with disabilities who have low income and low resources. You do not need to have worked in the past to get SSI. SSI is explained in this article. Or Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, gives monthly payments to people with disabilities who qualify because they used to work. And so then it gives you a hyperlink to learn more about DB101's SSDI article. So again, we are going to focus today primarily on SSI, as that is the benefit that students would most likely be receiving, if they're receiving any at all, especially after the age of 18, because at the age of 18, their parents' income no longer counts. So as the article states, some people qualify for both programs at the same time. So if you get benefits from Social Security but aren't sure which ones you get, open a free My Social Security account, and that's on Social Security's website. And I'll go there in just a minute, or you can order what's called a free benefits planning query from your local Social Security office. So again, people have a lot of misconceptions and misunderstanding, and often may not even know what benefit they receive. So for you all, what I'm really wanting to stress with you is that it's really, really critical that you have an understanding that Social Security has two programs, and really because of where the money comes from to fund the benefit really does then create the framework for how that particular program works. So I'm going to come back to this page, but first I'm going to share a video. It's 14 minutes and 28 seconds. And I'm going to put the link in the chat box. I would encourage you also to do that as well. And I will send the link out when I send out an email after the webinar with that link and also several other ones. So this is a video that about 6 of us made, really with a focus on students and for their family members about the truth about SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and working.
Supplemental Security Income and Working, Facts versus Myths, created by Jeff White with the Kentucky Division of Developmental and Intellectual Disabilities and Carolyn Wheeler, Kentucky Supported Employment Training Project with the Human Development Institute at the University of Kentucky. Both Jeff and Carolyn are certified as Community Partner Work Incentives Counselors through training they have completed, which is authorized by the Social Security Administration. Social Security's website at www.socialsecurity.gov can answer many of your questions about supplemental security income and working. The information for this presentation comes from Social Security. You want to make your decision concerning work based on facts, not on misinformation. The Kentucky Office of Vocational Rehabilitation has funded a website specific to Kentucky about working and the impact on SSI or SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. The website is called Disability Benefits 101, Working with a Disability in Kentucky. When you go from the home page, you can click on Supplemental Security Income, and it will take you to a page specific to SSI. Looking at the table of contents, you can even find a section on how SSI counts your income. This section gives you details that I will review briefly about how SSI and work together. This presentation is directed to the person who actually receives the SSI payment to help them understand that working and maintaining eligibility for an SSI cash payment and Medicaid can be compatible. SSI stands for Supplemental Security Income. SSI is intended to supplement other money you might earn from a job or be given. The money comes from the federal budget and is an independent program of the Social Security Administration. But SSI is not Social Security. In other words, a person who receives an SSI payment has not themselves paid into Social Security for the benefit they are receiving. This infographic, titled The Truth About Working While Receiving SSI, talks about or shows how much money SSI provides in the year that you're watching this video. It's a different amount for a single person than it is for an eligible or married couple. The formula stays the same. You can work and earn money while receiving SSI. The first $85 you earn each month does not change your SSI benefit, and after that, you get to keep 50 cents of your SSI for every $1 earned. And if your only income is from SSI and your job, when your paycheck reaches a certain amount per month, which will be over $1,700 gross, you would still be eligible for Medicaid until your income reaches what is Kentucky's threshold amount. And that amount will be over $35,000 a year. So as you can see, working and maintaining eligibility for SSI are very, very compatible. Social Security requires that people who receive SSI pay their fair share of living expenses. If you do not pay your fair share, the Social Security Administration may reduce your monthly cash payment by as much as 1/3 of the maximum payment. If you have been receiving SSI as a child and you are approaching your 18th birthday, you need to read Social Security's book entitled What You Need to Know About Your Supplemental Security Income When You Turn Age 18. This booklet is available on Social Security's website. As the booklet points out, it is for students and parents and teachers and staff to understand what will happen to your SSI when you turn 18. In general, you will be contacted within a year of turning age 18, and this review is called the Age 18 Redetermination. Doctors and other trained staff will decide if you meet the disability rules for adults. Our, meaning Social Security's disability rules for adults, are different from our disability rules for children. Historically, about 1/3 of children lose their SSI eligibility following the age 18 redetermination. So there is no guarantee a child who receives SSI will continue to be eligible for a benefit as an adult. SSI is concerned about two kinds of income: unearned income, which is money or some other benefit you receive without having to perform some kind of work or service, and earned income. That is money or some other benefit you receive because you perform some kind of work or service. For purposes of this video, we are focusing on earned income, which is money you would be paid from a job or if you are self-employed. I'd now like to share information with you from Social Security's book, Working While Disabled, How We Can Help, which explains how Social Security treats income for people on SSI. It states its formula. There's a section entitled How Your Earnings Affect Your SSI Payments, which we reviewed briefly on the infographic. So again, if your only income is SSI and the money you make from your job, we, meaning Social Security, don't count the first $85 of your monthly gross earnings. Each month, we reduce your SSI benefits 50 cents for every dollar that you earn over $85. Here's an example. You work and earn $1,000 in a month. Again, that's gross, and your only income comes from your earnings and your SSI. So 1,000 minus 85 equals $915, divided by 2 equals $457.50. We would reduce your SSI payment by $457.50. Then you add that to the $1,000 and you can clearly see that you'd have more money than if you didn't work. Work incentives are special rules which make it possible for people with disabilities receiving supplemental security income, SSI, to work and receive higher monthly SSI payments by further reducing the amount of your earned income that is countable. SSI work incentives include impairment-related work expenses, blind work expenses, student earned income exclusion, plans to achieve self-support, and Section 1619B or continued Medicaid eligibility. The student earned income exclusion applies to students with disabilities if they are under age 22, go to school, or regularly attend a training program. Eligible students with disabilities who work will find out that Social Security does not count a large portion and perhaps most of your earnings. In fact, while you are an eligible student, this means that your SSI payment would not be reduced unless you earn more than $2,000 gross per month. Section 1619B, which is also known as continued Medicaid coverage, applies to you as you are eligible for SSI, you have Medicaid, and hopefully are employed with earned income. You can continue to be eligible for Medicaid coverage until your gross annual income reaches a certain amount, which is at least $35,000 annually in Kentucky. You would still need Medicaid and you would be using the coverage, and you would limit what Social Security calls your countable resources to $2,000. Where can you go for help? The Social Security Administration provides benefits counseling services free of charge through their Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Programs, also known as WIPA. Because each agency serves a large portion of the state, staff are not able to typically meet with you in person. The consultation would be conducted over the phone or virtually. You must share certain information with Social Security if you receive an SSI benefit. The person, meaning you, receiving the benefit or your representative payee, is responsible to find out when information should be reported and how it should be reported. You need to report what you do at your job, how much money you make, and any changes that happen. You will need to report how many hours you work and anything you have to pay for related to your disability in order to work, as you would then be able to maintain more of your SSI cash payment. SSI is means tested. This means you must have very limited resources in order to qualify for SSI and Medicaid. What are resources? According to Social Security, a resource is money or something you own that can easily turn into cash. Your countable resources must not be worth more than $2,000 for an individual or $3,000 for an eligible couple, meaning both people are eligible to receive SSI. But there are many things that do not count toward the resource limit, including you can own a home as long as you live there, one vehicle used to transport you or a member of your household, life insurance policies with a face amount of $1,500 or less per person, burial plots or spaces for you and your immediate family, household goods and personal effects, and property you or your spouse would use in a trade or business or on your job, and money you set aside under a plan to achieve self-support, which is a Social Security work incentive, and money that is properly deposited in a qualified special needs trust, pool trust, or ABLE account also do not count. People whose disability occurred before the age of 26 can save up to $16,000 per year for qualified disability expenses through an ABLE account, and more if they are employed, and still remain eligible for SSI and Medicaid. Kentucky's ABLE program is called Stable Kentucky. Let's look at how Stable Kentucky works and how you could save money for qualified disability expenses. Stable accounts offer tax-free savings for disability-related expenses, and they allow you to save and invest without losing needs-based benefits such as SSI and Medicaid. You actually open an account online from this website. Who is eligible? Anyone whose disability occurred before the age of 26 is eligible to open a stable account. If you do have any questions or concerns, you can take this quiz on the website. As I stated earlier, you and or your family members, in addition to you, can contribute up to $16,000 per year or whatever the gift tax exclusion is for that year. And if you're employed, you may be able to contribute up to an additional $12,000 of income. You choose from among 5 different investment options, including 4 mutual fund-based investments and 1 FDIC insured savings option. And you can learn more about those options by clicking here on the website. It's very important to understand that funds in a stable account have to be used to pay for any expense related to your disability, not just medical expenses. These are called qualified disability expenses. Examples of things you can use your stable account for include basic living expenses, housing, transportation, education, assistive technology, employment training, personal support services, legal fees, health and wellness, or financial management. And you can click here on the website to learn more about what those could involve, as well as what the consequences would be if you used funds from your stable account for a non-qualified disability expense. So in conclusion, I hope you understand that you can work, still maintain eligibility for SSI and Medicaid, and enjoy a fruitful and productive life.
So I'm going to go back to DB 101. Again, this is Carolyn, and I'm going to encourage you to do the same, either on your computer or on your phone. I'm going to actually go back to the home page, click on Supplemental Security Income, and then click on SSI and Work. So this page will review essentially what I just talked about in the video, but one of the wonderful features of this website is right here in the center where it says on SSI, excuse me, get a quick estimate of how working may affect your income. So that's why I'd like you, I hope you've got this open on your phone or on your computer so that you can do this while I'm going through it as well. So thank you, Chelsea. So it says income snapshot. Answer the questions below to see how working might affect your total income. So your situation today, what is your monthly SSI benefit amount? Well, the most it could be is $841 in 2022. Now, I'm going to do a couple of scenarios. So for this one, are you blind according to Social Security? I'm going to leave that no. Are you under 22 years old? I'm going to click yes, because a number of you are here with school systems and you work with students. And so I want to show you the amazing impact of that student earned income exclusion, which is one of an extraordinary work incentives for people who are students and on SSI. And are you in school at least half time? And I'm going to click yes, because that is the criteria to be able to use the student earned income exclusion. Were you working in July 2022? And I'm going to just leave that no. So your future plan, what will be your gross? Now, again, it's always gross monthly income with Social Security. So what will be your gross monthly income for all of your jobs? And you could even click here on this hyperlink to help you calculate that. Well, I'm going to just pick a figure of $300, assuming, again, a student is going to school full-time, and so they have a part-time job. And then it asks, how much will you claim in monthly impairment related work expenses? Well, I'll come back to that when we talk about a person who's not a student, because while you're a student, you don't really need to worry about those. So in this snapshot, it just shows you'd have more income. So I would just say, ta-da, you will earn money from work and your SSI will continue unchanged. Now, remember, this is for the students. So for all of you who are working in the community work transition program, this applies to all of your students who are on SSI. Unless they earn over the student earned income exclusion, which I think is $2,200, which I've always wondered what kind of a job that would be for a student to have that kind of money, maybe one heck of a lawn care business in the summer. But it just shows you that the student would have maintained all of their SSI, that's in the gray, and then their earned income is here in the green on the graph. And then down here at the bottom, it shows it in terms of the numbers. So that is awesome. That's wonderful. But what's so very important is for the student to then understand what it's going to look like when they are no longer a student. So let's go back to try it now. And again, I hope you're doing this with me, because you will then be more likely to use it if you do. So your monthly income is $841. I'm sorry, your monthly SSI benefit is $841. We're still going to leave that the person's not blind. And this time, though, they're going to be 22 years of age or older. They weren't working in July of 2022. And then let's put that same amount in here of $300. And then click on Show Results. So what you see here is, yes, there is some offset of their SSI payment, but they are still going to have more money than if they didn't work. So they would still get their earned income of $300. That's shown here in the green and down here at the bottom. And their SSI payment would be $733.50. So it has done the math for you. So essentially, you don't need to know the formula. It will do the calculation for you. So the person would have $192.50 per month more by working than if they didn't work. I'm going to close the page and then try it one more time. Let's see what happens if we say that the student is, or the person is blind. I'm still going to say that they're not a student. And I'm not sure if it will calculate the blind work expenses, but let's take a look. No, it didn't. So what we would need to do to go back, for any student, or I'm sorry, for any person who works and has impairment-related work expenses or blind work expenses, we would need to be able to put that down here in this box. So let me do that. So impairment-related work expenses could include transportation, as an example. So if a person has to pay for transportation in order to go to work, let's say that's $100 a month. So let's make them now making $500, but they're going to have $100 a month in what are called impairment-related work expenses, which have to be reported to Social Security. So there we go. So again, this just points out the person's going to have more money. Yes, there is an offset of their SSI payment. What I want to encourage you to do, though, is to focus on this income change. They're going to have $342.50 more per month. They would still have an SSI cash payment. They would still have Medicaid coverage. So this website, to me, could be really helpful to you in, again, helping people to dispel many of the myths that they may have about the impact of working on their SSI payment. And this page, again, will go on to talk about work expenses that aren't counted, impairment-related work expenses, blind work expenses. I also have on the Google Drive fact sheets about blind work expenses. I'm going to open this. So if you do work with students who are statutorily blind, there are many, many items that can count as a blind work expense that are different from impairment-related work expenses. So a person who is statutorily blind just has, again, many, many expenses. And most likely by the time they add all of these up, it's highly likely that there would be very little reduction of their SSI payment because of this work incentive. So the place to go to really to help get the help that students or job seekers need is to go to one of the WIPA Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Programs. And so you have a brochure in the Google Drive for each of these two programs. So Goodwill Services here in Lexington has that contract, but they serve all of the counties in blue. The Center for Accessible Living, which is based out of Louisville, serves all the counties in gray. They also serve a portion of southeastern Kentucky. So I'd like you to just type in the chat box if you would. You can either type, if you're Goodwill is your service provider, type Goodwill, or just type blue. Just type blue or gray if that's easier for you. But just to type in the chat box, thank you. Most folks are typing the name of the agency so that you know which one is your WIPA service provider. So I want to recommend that you make sure that students especially are connected with their WIPA service provider, because they're going to be leaving school. They're not going to have you anymore at some point, but they need to have this ongoing connection, because I'm going to hope that you are launching them on a career path, and that they will need to come back and say, oh, I've gotten a new job, or I have more hours, or I'm getting an increase in my hourly wage. What does that mean? What will happen to my SSI payment? so that, again, they have an ongoing relationship with their WIPA provider that will serve them well, not only as a student, but also as an adult. So great, a lot of you all are identifying who your WIPA service provider is. And I have also opened, just so again, you know, this is in the Google Drive, the Center for Accessible Living serves the counties that are listed there on the left-hand side of the brochure. These programs have 800 numbers. They also have a website or an email that you can contact. Just know that they're not like 911. So it's not as though you could call them and immediately get an answer to your question. Again, think about if you have a toothache, you're going to call and make an appointment with a dentist, but you're going to have to go in and be seen. So similarly, people with the WIPA program have to actually collect information. They have to verify the person's benefits with Social Security. If they're getting supplemental nutrition assistance program, SNAP benefits, they need to verify that. Now they can answer basic questions about what happens when somebody goes to work if they're on a particular benefit. But I would recommend that instead of calling the WIPA program, you know, again, trying to teach you to fish, you would go to DB 101, because you really can find the answers to your basic questions about any of these benefits on this website and not be reliant on hoping somebody's going to answer the phone and can answer your question. And I've also, I'll show just the goodwill, which again, the counties are here. There's an 866, which is a toll-free number, or an email. Now, also need to point out that there are maybe 3 to 4 folks who provide these services. So again, my understanding is they're not going to meet with you in person. They're going to be doing that benefits analysis consultation either by phone or by Zoom. So it would be really important if you are a community work transition program employment specialist, or if you are the employment specialist through a supported employment program, or the voc rehab counselor, that you would get a copy of that report. Now, also in the Google Drive is a document where I've done the math for you. Actually, I've used a spreadsheet that we have in the Google Drive to do the math for you. So you are welcome, again, to print this out, to share it with people. So again, this is when a student is no longer a student. It's just really, really important. The great work that you all do while students are in high school can be derailed because the family or the parent doesn't understand that when they're no longer a student, there is going to be a offset or reduction in the SSI amount. What's really important to help that family member and student understand is that they will have more money if they continue to work. So as an example, let's go all the way down to the bottom. There are young adults in this state making $1,200 or more per month. For example, I had an email exchange and then later a conversation with a mom whose son at age 19, he has graduated from high school, has the Michelle P. waiver, and he was going to be making $1,900 a month working at Walmart full-time. And her concern wasn't so much about about losing the SSI payment, it was about losing Medicaid. And so I was able to help her understand the work incentive that would allow him to still maintain his Medicaid coverage and still work full-time at Walmart and make that great income. But at $1,200 a month, there would still be an SSI payment. And the total financial outcome of $1,483.50 is substantially more than $841. What I also want you to understand is that no one ever needs to decline that third paycheck. You know, some people, when you get paid every other week, 1 or 2 months a year, you're going to get paid 3 times. Well, go for it. It's just really then important that you report your gross earnings to Social Security so that your SSI payment is reduced accordingly, but you will have more money. So actually the lower, if you look at this column, the new SSI amount, the lower the SSI payment goes because of work, the more money the person has. So again, less SSI, more money. So Aaron, sure, there are taxes taken out. They're still going to have more money because the taxes are not reducing their income dollar for dollar. And what you can tell them is that when they file their income tax return, they'll most likely get that money back, as well as they probably will be eligible for the earned income tax credit, which means they may get another $400 a month. So again, they're still going to be off. They're still going to be better off financially by working. Plus, they're also, Aaron, contributing to their own Social Security account. So when they get to be up in years, like myself, they will have a much richer Social Security retirement benefit than they would have if they had not worked. So I'm actually going to share that example with you of my friend Linda. So I have been a representative payee for 3 different people with an intellectual disability since 1980. So I'm almost in my 43rd year of doing that. And all 3 of these people have worked and still maintain their eligibility for a cash payment. So this is Linda, and this is a picture when she was on vacation a few years ago at Nolan Lake. And actually, she just got back from vacation on Nolan Lake with Dreams with Wings, which is the organization that supports her in Louisville. So I'm Linda's power of attorney, not her guardian. And I'd be really glad to talk with families about the differences between guardianship and power of attorney. I can do everything for Linda that I did for her as her power of attorney without taking away her rights or without having to file the court reports. So Linda is going to be 70 this November. She had no schooling. She grew up in Oldham County. Parents were tenant farmers, and I'm going to assume that they were given housing and probably paid cash. So her parents, to my knowledge, did not contribute to their own Social Security number. And so Linda worked all of her adult life that I know of. And certainly since I have been in this role in her life since 2003 until, well, I should just say she worked and received a cash payment benefit. So at one time she did receive SSI, but that did change to SSDI. And ladies and gentlemen, that's more than SSI. So there again, you work, you're contributing to your own Social Security number. So if your benefit changes to Social Security disability insurance, the rules are a bit different about how much money you can earn and maintain that benefit, but it's still well over $1,000 a month. All that to say is that you're affecting your present in a positive way and your future. So her SSDI payment was more than whatever SSI was at the time. So her SSI cash payment was terminated. But I can tell you since 2003 that Linda maintained her SSDI payment, cash payment, her Medicare, and worked part-time, averaging 25 hours a week. So again, people can work and still maintain a cash benefit. I was actually her brother's guardian and representative payee, and he actually worked full-time. I used work incentives and maintained his cash payment. So Linda's full retirement age was age 66. She retired. Her benefit changed to her retirement benefit. Linda had the Michelle P. waiver and now has the SCL waiver, supports for community living waiver. And what I can tell you is that as a retired person, she is living large. Her benefit, her Social Security retirement benefit from her own work record is substantially more than that $841 a month, just substantially more. So she can go on vacation. She can have her own apartment. She can have a bunny rabbit. She can have Derby Dinner Playhouse season tickets. So I just want to leave you, and I'm going to leave some time here for questions. So what if you could help a job seeker, whether that's a student, or if you're a vocational rehabilitation counselor, or you're an employment specialist, but understand they could earn $1,000 a month gross, because that would make a difference in people's lives, and still receive an SSI or SSDI cash payment, and still maintain eligibility for Medicaid if they're receiving SSI or one of Kentucky's home and community-based waivers. But as long as they don't have more than $2,000 of accountable resources, and still maintain eligibility for Medicare if receiving an SSI DI payment. So what I'm hoping I'm doing in this brief period of time that we have today is to liberate you from thinking that people just really have to limit their earnings, that we can really help people to have high expectations for what's possible and to explore their full potential as a contributing employee. So I'm going to close talking a little bit more about stable accounts. So stable is Kentucky's ABLE program. ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. Federal legislation was passed in December of 2014, and Kentucky opened its ABLE program called Stable in December of 2016. And we are part of actually the Ohio ABLE program, which is of great benefit to Kentuckians because we have the benefit of being part of a national program without having incurred the expenses to set it up. So to open an account, you go to this website, again, Stable Kentucky, thank you, Chelsea.com. And it takes $25 to open an account. It will take an email address and of course a password. You as a parent could open it for a minor child. If you're a guardian or a power of attorney, you can open it for someone for whom you have that legal authority, or the person themselves can open the account with $25. And it needs to be linked though to a bank account so that you could continue to make ongoing contributions or request distributions. So the earnings are tax deferred but tax free when you take them out to pay for qualified expenses. So that's really amazing. So the money can grow tax-free essentially. And again, it does not impact a person's eligibility for Medicaid or SSI or SNAP benefits or HUD subsidy. You can also obtain a stable Visa card that can be used to spend money on qualified expenses. So people are eligible if their disability occurred before the age of 26. I opened the account for Linda when she was around 65 or 66, but her disability occurred at birth. So if you have any questions, you can use this little quiz and then understand that this really is a saving and investing account. And there are 4 mutual fund based investments and 1 FDIC insured savings option where essentially the money will be protected, but it won't grow, it won't have the opportunity to grow very much. And then these are all the areas or potential areas of qualified expenses. You can click on any of these to learn more about that particular category. So it's 10:57 Eastern. I'm going to go ahead and stop. If you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Or I think you could even unmute. Hopefully not talk over each other. There are about 40 people here. And I will try to answer them.